I'm doing good. So I'm happy to be talking to you. I've only done a few things with the Canadian interviewers and stuff, and I'm planning on getting there on the tour, so...
Well, that's good.
They want to talk to some. Yeah.
Well, that's what you got to do. How's life in the world of rock and progressive rock and all that good stuff?
You know what's interesting is that in the mid-'90s, there's a label called Magna Carta that kept me working on doing a lot of tributes to all ELP and Yes, Jethro Tull. But progressive rock wasn't as big then. It was hard to make a living in it. And of course, I was playing with Sammy Hagar and dealing with Ambrosia then.
Mm-hmm.
But now, the prog rock stuff, there's a big enough audience to actually take it out on tour and, you know, maybe not make a lot of money in your pocket to pay for the tour and play the music to people. So I'm kind of excited about it. It's a good time for progressive rock, it seems like.
Is it like a new resurgence, you think? You know, the kids of today are discovering this stuff? Or how do you look at it?
I think they really are. You know, and when I say music was dumbed down for so long, starting back with Nirvana in the 90s and stuff, I love Nirvana. I think Kurt Cobain was a hell of a songwriter. But as far as any virtuoso playing, or even have to really know more than 3 or 4 chords on a guitar, you didn't have to. You know, it's really dumbed down in some ways, but it was good. But I think now, so many kids are still taking guitar lessons, taking piano lessons. You know, they still want to be in a band. I have a recording studio. I'm talking to you from Silicon Valley in California, San Jose, California.
Okay.
Where, you know, 2 blocks from me one way is the main eBay headquarters, big campus. 2 blocks from me the other way is Netflix, the main campus. They have 3 huge buildings there. A mile away is the new Apple spaceship thing they built, that big donut-shaped thing, all that glass. I'm right in the heart of it, and still all the music stores are selling guitars and keyboards to all the kids. All the kids are going to play AC/DC riffs. You know, they're not giving up on music. And then they're seeing these guys like Dream Theater or Yes, 2 versions of Yes now, both doing well. Carl Palmer is out with his ELP legacy, doing well, playing all the time. I've done over 100 interviews on this album, and people are responding really well to it. And I just see that all generations, the old guys that used to like the prog still do. The middle guys like me are still out and have a fan base. And then there's young kids that are getting into it. Like, they love Rush. You know,
right.
Rush is really a prog band. So, yeah, it's a good time.
Well, it's like that, and the rules have changed. 3.2. Now, this is an interesting album you've released, and you got a promo video already issued. That's great.
Yes.
How was it working to make a video, let's say, for YouTube?
You know, it was interesting because for me, the record company told me we want to put Powerful Man out as a single. And when Keith and I were discussing doing the album, and I'm sure your readers, are you an online publication?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so the readers, I'm sure, are aware of who Keith Emerson was, Emerson and Palmer, and we were working on this album together. And after he died, I had to finish it by myself, but the record company says, we really like that Powerful Man song. We think it has wider appeal than just a prog rock or stuff. We want to put it as a single. We need you to do a video. And oh boy, thinking, I just spent a year finishing this album, and I didn't have a concept for a video. So I talked to a friend of mine, and they said, you know, there's a lot of powerful things in the world that we could put on in this video that wouldn't be so obvious. I said, well, I like the sound of that. Not just powerful men, you know. I mean, there's actually a picture of Paul McCartney in there with his son and his daughter and a few other movie stars and stuff with their kids. They were powerful men and influenced their kids in a certain way. And, of course, I wrote the song because Keith Emerson's son, Aaron, the great keyboard player, the guy played with Greg Kihn, his son, Ry, in the band with us. Great guitar player. Took lessons from Joe Satriani. He's fantastic. Steve Howe's son, Dylan, playing drums. I mean, the kids are impressed and empowered by their powerful dads in the music world and in all worlds. So that's what I wrote the song about. But I thought, wow, how am I going to express that in a video? So this person put a lot of things together for me, and I just said, look, I'll sing some of it. I'll get you a video for that. But basically, I want it to be other stuff besides me that has power in the world. That's how it came together. So I had about 50% to do with it. The rest of it, I just turned it loose and let somebody else work on it.
And also, when you make an album, you have to open up yourself, and then when you make a video, it's like a whole different game again. Would you agree?
Yeah, totally. That's a great point, because when I'm writing the lyrics and working on the music, and even as I was doing it, I didn't realize how personal and how much, Keith's death had affected me when I was writing songs, and just my view on life, what sort of came out of me, not thinking about it. But then a video is all thinking, well, how do we orchestrate a video that's entertainment worthy? So it's definitely a different process. Yeah, you're right.
And it's like that, you have to, invest somewhat of a certain amount of energy, I should say. And it's like, how do you go about it? It's a whole different world now, and people expect music videos.
They do, and the rough thing is that I'm a stickler for lip sync. So many of them, you see a drum roll or something that's not quite hitting the snare drum at the right time, or somebody's lips won't be with it, and I'm just a stickler for it, and it takes hours to go, that's not quite right. And they go, what do you mean? It's right on. I said, no, it's not right on. You got to adjust that. You move it back a few frames or forward. It's a tedious process. It really is. And video takes a lot of locking in frames and moving things around, cutting up pieces, fading them in and out with certain plugins and things. With audio, you just take a fader, you fade it down if you want to. You change the volume. It's a much more organic process in audio, although it can be very digital and labor-intensive too, but it's capable of doing it organically with audio, and letting it flow kind of. Video's all thinking. It's all on the mechanical side of the brain,
Yeah. And another thing too, now it seems the lyric videos are getting popular, and if you don't just do a music video, let's make a concept for a lyric video. So then you got to invest time and energy to making a good, proper lyric video.
Yeah, and a lot of those are kind of taking the easy way out. They just put the words out there in the album cover picture or something, So yeah, it's still the people that put the thought in it. That's like you said, it's a whole nother level and a whole another job, another gig.
Now, let's say for the rules have changed. Like, you have some ideas here that comes from Emerson. How much stuff did you have? Like, let's say from conversations on the phone and old cassettes and all this stuff. How did you just get everything in a bunch and organize it all to make it what it is today?
Well, we did it, first of all, song by song. We spoke a lot about the plan, and the plan was an interesting part of it because Keith was criticized heavily for the first album in 1988, which is the reason we didn't do a second album back then. And he left it behind, but when the live album came out in 2016, I guess it was, he got a copy of it. We all did. There was an advance involved. Basically, it was just a paycheck to him. He didn't want to really revisit 3 again. And I'd never asked him to do a second album as much as I wanted to, of course. I just knew he wouldn't do it. All of a sudden, I get this phone call, and he calls me up and says, Robert, I just listened to the album. We were really a good band. He's all excited. I said, well, Keith, I got my copy too. I haven't put it on yet. He goes, well, it came in. I listened to it. We were good, the Jamming and the Fiery Plane. And then said again, we were such a good band. Like he couldn't believe it because the criticism had sort of turned away from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I took that opportunity to say, well, should we do a follow-up? He said, yeah, let's do it. We had one cassette tape from 1988 that had a song in it and a couple of parts that we hadn't used back then. So that song had no lyrics and melody, but it had music. And of course, the lyrics and the melody are my part of it. So I started working on that. We laid out 4 more songs the way we wanted to do it, what we were going to do with them. And Keith sent me some digital files of his playing because he was still in L.A. We weren't going to get together to finish it till after he came back from England and he saw his grandkids. You can go visit him. So we were speaking on the phone quite a bit, and he had a piano in his house, and I had one in my studio here. And it was really super creative time because it was sort of free. You don't have to be in the same room. When you both have an instrument and you have a speakerphone or ear pods like I have on now, it makes it really easy. This day and age, it's like you're in the same room. You know, you and I, we're so far apart, but actually we have a real clear connection. We're in the same room, you know?
Yeah.
So we would jam back and forth, and he'd play something on his piano. Here's what I'd like to do, this little intro, or this, I'd like to use this piece I've been working on. What do you think of this? Oh, that's cool. Well, I thought maybe we could work that into a chorus. And so he'd sort of tell me and play it like, and I'd play it like halftime and a bunch of clunkers in it on my piano, like, clunk, clunk. And he'd go, no, there's a G in there, and there's a D, and then there's this chord, and then you do that, 3/4 measure. Okay, so I'd play it on my Pro Tools. I'd record it in, like getting a keyboard lesson on Keith Emerson's music from Keith Emerson, and I'd put it on there. And, even if it wasn't quite up to speed, I'd get as close as I could to the ideas we're talking about. So I had that to spring the chorus of the song off of, or the verse of the song, whatever we had decided that we wanted to do. And then he'd leave it with me to come up with the words and the melody for, in between those parts. And once we okayed the songs, and he came back from the UK seeing his grandkids, we were going to finish everything. So the creative process was really kind of freeing. We had the musical bits, and I had to create songs within those musical bits. And I was being inspired by what Keith had written and what we had talked about. And, of course, we have learned a lot in 27 years since the first album and the first two of working together. And we had talked about putting all that in there, paying tribute to the past with the sound and the bigness of the album, and then bringing it into the future here, or the now, I should say. And it was laid out pretty clearly in concept, and I had, what do I want to call them? Like when you're going to build a house and you put the stakes in the ground and you mark it off with chalk for the foundation. You got that foundation there, but the house isn't built yet. I had that foundation really marked out.
Well, that's very, very well said. Let's say when you take multi-instrumentalists, are they rare in this world, or how common is it? You don't have much. I don't see myself looking at much people online and doing everything. How do you take it?
Well, in the new world, let's say, in the hip hop world, there's one guy with a computer and a keyboard and a drum machine, and every sound you can imagine is sampled. You even have guitar sample. You can play a guitar and a keyboard that has guitar notes attached to it, and it sounds like a guitar. They know how to morph it together with the strumming and everything. The drums, you can program drums that have even the room sound and the microphone choice. It's not just a drum machine with a button on it. You could choose everything. So these guys are doing it, but they're not really playing it. They're just pushing a button. Maybe they're a good keyboard player, and they can write some good lyrics and stuff. They can write a song, but they're not playing all the instruments. There are some guys doing it, though. I just happen to do it down at my studio where I'm talking to you from now. I'm actually taking a break from a girl I'm doing an album for named Dejar, and she's from Malaysia, and we're doing a whole album, and she brings a song in, and she sings it. And I go about, getting some chords for her, arranging the song. I'll get the drums, the bass, keyboard, whatever it is, because she's not playing anything. I've been doing that here at the studio for 30 years, almost every day, 5 days a week, unless I'm on tour working my own album. So it's kind of just what I do for a living, and what I try to do is become that missing piece to the person that comes in. If they say, I want to sound like AC/DC, I want to sound like that kind of rock, I'll discuss with them what they sound like, what they write with, and then I'll do all the parts. And except for the part, if they play guitar, they do the guitar. If they sing, they sing. I've made a career in my studio out of that in the business. So, but, I don't see a lot of guys doing it for real. I mean, I play real drums, real guitar, real bass, I have a Yamaha C7 concert grand in here. I don't always use the real piano, But I have one. I have a Hammond B3. Everything. I mean, everything is here that's real. Plus, I have everything that's sampled. So whatever the song really calls for, a pop dance track, maybe I'll use a drum machine. Yeah. Maybe I'll use one of these new programs and stuff. But I can't say how many people are doing that. I don't know. I know Todd Rundgren has done it. He's pretty good at everything.
Mm-hmm. It's like people like Prince as well, did everything themselves.
And I know Prince played drums really well, but he used a drum machine a lot too because it was dance music, But Prince was a hell of a guitar player, let me tell you. I was really surprised at that. Greg is actually, right now, since my 3.2 album has done so well, and like today, I'm in actually a recording session with Dejar and had to take a break so we could talk, which I'm happy to do. But I did 2 interviews this morning before I started. I'm doing at least 10 interviews a week. I have studios totally booked. I just couldn't take time away from 3.2 to go out with Greg right at this time. So he's out using Rick Springfield's band on a tour with Rick Springfield. Now, when he's in town, because they're doing 15 gigs, it's not that big a deal. When he's in town, we get together every Wednesday down here. We're working on the next album. We're halfway done with that. The last album out last year, I just couldn't be happier with it. It turned out so great. And what I like to say, it turned out like a Greg Kihn album. We didn't do a Greg Kihn Whitesnake album or a Greg Kihn Bruno Mars album or, let's update it. I'm into something else. Let's do a blues album. No, we made it a Greg Kihn album. The kind of stuff he does. And we worked for 2 years. We worked on that. And it was a lot of fun. And the new one's got some really good songs on it already. And again, it's Greg Kihn. If you like his music, you're going to hear the kind of stuff you like from him. So that's what I do. I mean, that's the way I've done my life. I have my own thing, and the progressive rock thing, which is much more complicated and deeper lyrics and longer songs and everything. But I've joined many bands to sort of package their sound and style, starting way back with Steve Howe and GTR back in 1986. Yeah, Greg's doing great, though. It's going really well.
Well, Robert Barry, your new product sounds great, and it's great to see, and Frontier's record is doing good stuff. And, to have you, 3.2 on it is awesome.
Yeah, I'm very pleased that Frontiers, that Serafino, the president, bugged me for 10 years to do a second 3 album. I said, I can't even call Keith. So you talk to him all the time. He said, yeah, but I don't talk to him about 3. He doesn't want to do it. I know he'd call me again. How about that 3 album? I said, Serafino, I just know he won't do it. We really want you to do it. So when that opportunity opened, that door cracked open just a speck, and I called Serafino. I said, guess what? Keith wants to do it. He was thrilled, and they put everything into this on the release. Every country that has an Amazon, there's 5 countries sold out by noon on the first day of release, August 10th, on the 3.2 album. The rules have changed, and I was blown away. I was overwhelmed by it because one of my missions is to make sure that, or one of my worries, I should say at first, was to make sure that the last thing that Keith was involved in, last thing he wrote and, arranged and got all this input into wasn't an embarrassment. It didn't leave him in even a medium kind of light. It left him in a good light. Hey, this guy still had it. This guy could play. He could write. He was still the Keith Emerson we know and love. And that's what the reviews have been telling me. Because how would I know? I spent a whole year after he died finishing it up. I didn't know what I had. I was too close to it, So it's nice feeling him in the music. And I get to talk to people like you. And I can't wait to get to Canada. I haven't been to Canada to play since 1980. I have been there a few times producing a group called Deval, which is a string quartet that does rock and string quartet music with a drummer, and they're really good. Mm-hmm. And so I have been in town a few times, but I haven't played in town. It's been producing and recording.
Well, that'll be great, and it's like that. You keep up the great work, and we talk to you again in the future.
I hope so. Especially we get there on tour, and I want to meet you in person. thank you for taking the time and helping us spread the word and stuff. And we'll talk to you again on the show, and then have you at the show too, and shake your hand.
Excellent stuff.
It,
well, I appreciate it too, Robert.
Right.
So you have a good one, and we going to do what we do, promote you. So Robert Berry, have a good week.
All right, man. You too, and I'll see you next year.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Have a good day.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You too.